people think about pharmaceutical companies in innovation in terms of discovering and developing new drugs. Can you talk about how a pharmaceutical company can have a role in innovation in other aspects of healthcare?
Sure. I think you're right, Frank, that innovation takes many different forms, and it's desperately needed for us to be able to transform our healthcare system. Certainly, as you said, traditional innovation, I think people think about new drugs that are discovered and developed, and we want to continue to do that. We do want to apply process innovation to that to make sure that we can get that innovation, product innovation out as cheaply and as quickly as possible. I think what you've heard at the conference today, though, is another form of innovation, which is really delivery system innovation. How do we work together differently as members of the U.S. healthcare system to be able to utilize the dollars, the $2.7 trillion that we spend on healthcare each year, to make sure that we're delivering better patient outcomes. It will require different behaviors, different interactions and collaborations, and frankly, different incentives, so that we can make sure that we are all focused on the same thing, which is improving a patient outcome. For instance, we know that chronic disease drives about 75 cents of every dollar spent, but we're not managing chronic disease patients, those patients with heart disease or with diabetes. We're not managing them effectively on a consistent basis. Mm-hmm. So with business process innovation around the care delivery, how doctors operate, how physicians operate, how pharmaceutical firms operate, being able to apply better business processes that enable us to manage chronic diseases like diabetes better is going to be absolutely key.
So how is this changing GSK's approach to developing new drugs and products?
Sure. Well, I think in a couple ways. One is, as I said, we need to do that more efficiently, right? Our industry spent about $70 billion on R&D last year, right? It's an enormous sum, almost a mind-boggling sum. We have to make sure that we're getting products that improve the lives and the clinical and economic outcomes of patients. But ultimately, that innovation also has to meet the needs of those paying for it, whether it be the federal government or state government, whether it be private payers like Blue Cross Blue Shield in North Carolina who's here, or frankly, consumers who may be picking up a greater and greater proportion of their drug spend, making sure they understand the value that innovation will bring in terms of improved health outcome for them. They can function better. They can stay at work, not miss days because of illness. They can stay out of high-cost settings like the hospital. Those are the type of things that our innovation has to be able to prove, that it's giving a better patient outcome and ultimately is bringing value to the system. So as we go through our discovery and development process, not only do we want more efficient innovation delivered at a lower cost, but that innovation brings value to the system.
So does this change what you're looking for at the earlier stages of discovery?
No, I think it's an additive step, right? Historically, we've looked at regulatory approval, right? Mm-hmm. We talk about a regulatory product file. So when we file or submit to the FDA a product to get approved, it's a regulatory view. Is it safe? Is it effective? Is it well manufactured? I think what the new healthcare system does, and some of the innovation we're talking about here, adds the dimension of, does it bring value? Does it bring value in the eyes of the person that's paying for the bulk of that innovation, that product? So what we've tried to do is make sure that we understand those customers, those payers, better, and we connect them with our discovery and development folks pretty far upstream to make sure that we understand what are the unmet medical needs that are costing the system money or bringing, frankly, pain and suffering to patients, right? Mm-hmm. And how do we make sure our innovation is developed in an efficient way to meet those needs and hopefully over time bring value to the system.
So what about partnerships? Mm-hmm. What kinds of relationships do you have? How is this different now than how GSK operated in years prior?
Sure. I think we've gone from this notion of just simply a regulatory file, get a product approved through the FDA and get it out in the market, to now what our CEO refers to as a reimbursable file, that this mm-hmm. innovation is meaningful enough to patients and payers, those paying for it, that they will reimburse it. And so that's the big shift. We're moving from simply getting a product approved through the regulatory process, because it can get approved and simply sit on the shelf. If it doesn't benefit the patient or doesn't bring demonstrable value to the healthcare system, it won't be reimbursed either by public payers, the federal government, for instance, or private payers like Blue Cross Blue Shield. So we want to make sure that we have the evidence that our innovation is going to bring value to the system.
There was a mention of a project in Asheville, mm-hmm. And I wasn't too aware of the details, but I understand that GSK was a partner in in developing this or introducing it? Could you explain that?
Sure. This was around 1996, 1997. The city of Asheville was dealing with really unsustainable healthcare costs. GSK was one of the primary funders for a pilot that was payer-driven by major employers and some health insurers to really do a better job of managing patients with chronic disease. In this case, it was diabetes. Mm-hmm. And so they really took a different approach, very similar to what we've talked about today, where it wasn't just about the patient seeing their doctor once a year. Those with chronic diseases, really have to be managed much differently in a way that our healthcare system today is not designed to do. But they rearranged essentially how they managed diabetic patients in Asheville. And what they showed over a 5-year period was that they reduced the costs for those diabetic patients by about a third. More importantly, they had better patient outcomes. They managed their diabetes well, and that was in particular reflected on they had 50% less absenteeism from work. So they were able to go back to a normal life, whether it be being with their loved ones and family or whether it be at work on a more consistent basis. So again, it was a different approach, but it was one that we saw was the right thing to do to improve patient outcomes, and so we wanted to be part of it. We subsequently replicated a lot of what was in Asheville in 10 major cities across the U.S. in very similar results. Patients were able to manage their disease much better. The system saved money, and ultimately patients were able to lead more normal lives, which is really our clarion call as a pharmaceutical firm.
Okay. And I also wanted to ask about First in Health.
Mm-hmm.
Now this program, it's new. This started in the current benefit year, 2012?
For GSK, yes. This is
Okay.
2012 benefit year. It's the first time we're offering this. We're offering it as a wraparound benefit to both of our active employees here in North Carolina and our retirees and their beneficiaries. Really what it is it's an opportunity for them to experience a lot of the same benefits that Community Care of North Carolina has brought to other populations in the state, in particular the Medicaid population and the Medicare population. We now want to extend that to commercially insured population or folks who work for GSK. Because frankly, what they've shown by delivering better care to patients in the local communities, all 100 counties across the state, is they can indeed get better health outcomes as measured by independent third parties, something called HEDIS scores. They rank in the top 10% in the entire nation in terms of how they're managing diseases like diabetes and heart disease. So they're getting better patient outcome, but they're doing it more efficiently from a cost standpoint. What we want for our employee base and our retiree base is the best health care that we can provide them. And if we can do that in a more cost-effective manner, certainly that's attractive to any business.
Do you have a sense of how popular it's been with GSK employees?
Yeah, I think we had reasonable uptake in the open enrollment process at the end of 2011. One of the things we're going to do is keep enrollment in this open all throughout the entire 2012 year. The goal here is this we waive the co-pays for the physician office visits, so there's frankly no deterrent for the employee or the retiree to partake in this. The physicians that make up Community Care of North Carolina, it's about 95-96% of all physicians in the state, so it should not be disruptive to the patient in terms of that patient-provider relationship that they have. And as we said, by waiving the office visit copay, there's frankly any financial concern is removed. Over time, what we believe this will more than pay off by getting that patient better treatment as it relates to a lot of the chronic diseases that currently drive up a lot of the U.S. healthcare system costs.
So looking ahead, as you try to determine how to evaluate the success of First in Health, what measures will be important to hone in on?
Sure. Well, first and foremost, if our our employees or their retirees can get better health care, especially around their chronic diseases, it's a win for us, right? I mean, ultimately, we are in the business to help patients do more, feel better, and live longer. That's going to take better quality care. And so if Community Care can do that for our population, we'll be extremely pleased. Second, and as a secondary bonus, if we can manage our costs more effectively, that would be great, right? Like every business in the country, we are wrestling with the cost of health care. And we've got to look for better ways to do it, to deliver better quality care at lower cost. I think third, an element of success would be the fact that this is probably the most advanced, what they call patient-centered medical home initiative in the country. all eyes across all of the 49 states are looking to North Carolina because they've seen the success of this. If we can contribute to that, if we can be one of the partners that help support the continued growth and expansion of that, that's also a measure of success, because frankly, we believe that a firm like GSK can be part of the solution to the healthcare challenges we face.
Have other corporations extended any inquiries about what you're doing and how it's working?
Sure. We've got multiple employers that operate in the state of North Carolina who are looking at it, some who have already publicly announced that they'll join it. Car Drugs, which is a regional pharmacy chain, will be joining next year. Of course, on the public side, the state health plan, Ann Rogers and the group there are already shifting over a lot of the state employees, which numbers in excess of 500,000. So you're seeing more and more interest and more participation occurring. There are other companies at this point who are strongly considering it, and hopefully we'll see more announcements going forward.
Okay.